it's Jay and Lauren. Welcome to Collab Connection. I am so excited for this episode today. We are getting into the World Cup, and we have an amazing guest with us that Jay will introduce here in just a minute. But if you have been paying any attention, the World Cup is all over the place right now, and it is not just the biggest sporting event in the world, but it has evolved into this massive cultural phenomenon and event that is like a giant competition between brands and this huge cultural stage. So I've loved personally seeing all these people from all over the world come to the US, and they're discovering ranch dressing and Buc-ee's and Boston selling out of beer. And it's been really fun, and this like whole unifying experience that we so need right now. So with that, there's a lot that our promotional marketing and brand and merch industry can learn from all of this, and I can't wait to get into it. So Jay, take it from here.
Same. I'm like, you know how excited I get. I'm fired up. First of all, thank you. It's great to be back. It's been a while, summer and vacations and stuff. But Lauren, it's so good to see you. But our super special guest today is a friend of mine, Jenna Sackett. And Jenna is not just a friend, but she's a superstar in our industry because of all of the things that she sees before most. And so she does have a very important title. Her role at STAHLS is the brand experience manager. And I'm not sure what that means, but I'm up for it. And so I think what's super cool about it is I've gotten to know Jenna over the years through STAHLS, and everything she touches is gold. But she's not only doing that, she's also very much building something that I think is cool called Brand World Builder at Off Record. That's something that sounds very new, very fresh. I can't wait to learn more about Off Record. But Jenna Sackett, you are kind of a big deal around here, and we can't wait to talk to you. So you really do come at this from the perfect timing of the intersection of all of the things that I love about brand and brand strategy, but also the decoration side, the physical execution of it. So welcome. So glad you're here. The one and only Jenna Sackett.
Thank you so much. That is quite an introduction. I'm so excited to be here with you and Lauren. And first of all, I just love this topic because the World Cup is basically the Super Bowl of brand world building. It sounds weird to put World Cup and Super Bowl in the same sentence, but I know you guys know what I mean.
We get it.
There's obviously a really fun like football moment happening. It's a big tournament. It's an important one. But around that, there is this massive creative fight for attention.
Yes.
And every brand wants a piece of the emotion. They want the jersey, the soundtrack,
100%.
the retail moment. So I'm just so excited to be a part of this conversation because that's the part that I'm really interested in and how that translates to our industry.
I love that, and I love your curiosity about it. We have these side combos all the time and share things back and forth. Lauren and I do this all the time too. Did you see this? And it's like sending little memes, but it's not memes. It's like we send collabs. Oh, did you see this one? And we're, going off on a tangent about Duncan or about, Barbie or who knows what it is. But this time it's very much in our epicenter because, we are in North America hosting the games. And I saw something yesterday that blew me away, and it was online, and it said, the Super Bowl might have literally 100 million viewers. This event has almost 1.5 billion viewers. It is literally 100 times larger. It is just giant, and it is global. And so, yes, you hit it. Your perspective of it's a fight for attention. It's a fight for relevance. It's all of those emotions, and the consumer's at the center of it because they're having this, hopefully their team is advancing through the tournament. So it's so cool. So much fun. And we're lucky to have you because you literally bring the commentary. You have your fingers in lots of projects that matter. And I think what we're learning from it is that, this is about how a product can really carry an experience, or how an experience can really influence people long-term in their feelings and their emotions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for being on here. I'm personally excited because you just watching what you created and what you do is inspiring to me. And then I got to meet you last year, and I'm like, wow, your style and your perspective is something that our industry needs more of for sure. So
You guys got me all smiles over here. I appreciate all the love. This is incredible. Can I come on this podcast all the time?
Please do. Yes, yes, please do.
Of course. Yeah. So I'm curious from your standpoint, because you have all these major experiences, what you think about how the World Cup became this ultimate example of the world of collaborations that we're talking about, and including the fashion and music and retail and all these different facets that are happening all at once.
Yeah, I think it's because the World Cup gives brand access to something they spend the rest of their like year or quarter, right? These brands are always trying to manufacture genuine emotion at global scale. And the World Cup is literally handing that on a silver platter to these brands that are engaging with the World Cup. People already care. They already have a team. They already have a story. They have family traditions, national pride, all of it, rivalries even, right? And the brand is walking into the room where the emotional temperature is already turned all the way up, right? Like everybody that's bought into the World Cup, they're already there for it. They're already excited. And that creates a very enormous opportunity. But it also creates a very real risk. The opportunity is that the World Cup touches in nearly every part of culture. It's not just sport. It's fashion because people use clothing to show who they support. It becomes music because every major cultural moment needs a sound, right? And it becomes retail because people want a physical place to gather, discover, and participate. Hospitality is a large part of that because people are watching it together and there's camaraderie built around that. And then, of course, there's that creative culture where every city and community interprets this event differently. Customization plays like a huge role in this because nobody wants to experience a global moment in exactly the same way as everybody else. And I say that there's a little bit of risk in that because brands can look at this as where they're simply standing next to the emotion instead of actually adding to it. That's the real challenge. So while there's a ton of opportunity, there's still a little bit of risk there because it totally like matters how the brand shows up and shows like how they're a part of it. And then also like how they can connect and get feeling earned by the people participating and being a part of it. So I guess the big question is like, what is the brand contributing to the moment? Is it helping people express identity? Is it creating access? Are they elevating local voices? Or are they just taking a picture next to the culture and calling it collaboration? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's why I call it the world of collaborations, because you have fashion, you have music, neighborhoods, federations, athletes, retail spaces. And when it works, none of those pieces feel bolted on. They feel like different doors into the same world. So the match really is creating the emotion, but the best brands are creating meaningful ways for people to live inside of it.
How did you get so smart?
I love everything you just said. And
I know.
It also made me think about like, I've not really watched the World Cup before. Me
either. I was never really tied to it until I started noticing what was going on around it.
Exactly. And this year feels different. It's become this huge, like, unifying cultural event where these brands really are drawing in people that, you know, you have your super mega sports fans that are crazy and are stoked about it, but then they're somehow also bringing in other people like us that didn't ordinarily watch it, which is amazing in and of itself too, which is what they want.
Yeah. I mean, they're like I said in my opening, like the World Cup is this very important, like global football moment, but I'm only tied in because of the fashion side of it.
Yeah.
And for something like that to be able to bring in so many different types of people all together is incredible. I'm just loving seeing how everybody is connecting into this in their own unique way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same. I think that's the hook. I think those those smartest brands are willing to take that risk, and they're willing to say, this is what this moment can mean to my community. And they strive for that. And that's really why I think the title of what we're doing, the battle of the brands, World Cup style, right? That there's so many great angles and there's so many great examples, and we're going to dive into a few here soon. But what I love about it is, you hit on two of my favorite words, identity and access, Jenna. Those are like, it creates that bridge to be a part of something, even if it's the first time. Like, I have been a sports fan and watched World Cup games before. Not a rabid fan, but just like a curious fan, from the sports side. But even back years and years and years ago, I could see the influence that it was creating. I could see how it changes everything. And it's not just the sport of it. It was the culture. It was the vibe. It was the music. It was the fashion. And so smart. And it's fun to see now how things have evolved again. And so sponsorships, we used to, growing up as a kid, you'd see things like McDonald's and Coke, they're all the relevant, big, huge brands globally. But now it's fun to see smaller brands build something, and smaller doesn't necessarily mean less important. It means maybe even more focused in an untraditional way. And so that's why it's fun to unpack all this. But anyway, my point is, it's meaningful, it's fun, it's people that get to wear something, they get to go to parties, they get to collect. Don't forget the collector side of this, which is huge. The nostalgia, the memories, it all feels like something we want to be a part of. And that's why I'm so excited to keep having this discussion with you. So anywho, I don't know where I am, but I'm excited. And so we've got really you helped curate for us a few of these moments, if you will, a few of these bigger brands that are doing really important things, right, Lauren? So is that where we're going next?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we can just start with the major sponsor of the event, which is Adidas and Coca-Cola. And the mashup between them is incredible. Like, just what they've created. They're not just sticking their two logos side by side like we've seen before, having their logos on the jerseys. They've created something very unique that we can draw inspiration from. So in your design world and your experience, Jenna, like, what stood out to you with that mashup between Adidas and Coca-Cola? And we're pulling up some of the images on screen for anyone that's checking out the video side of this, because it is super visual, and I love these designs. I would buy these,
the way they came together and collaborated is very interesting, not in just the apparel that they manufactured for their consumer, but in the recognition, right? And so these two brands, Adidas and Coca-Cola, they don't really need an introduction. You see the three stripes, you see the Coca-Cola red, and you know the world immediately. The question is whether that familiarity becomes a creative advantage or a very expensive shortcut. So I love what they did to collaborate. I mean, picture it. You guys saw it on screen for those of you viewing, but for those of us just listening in, Coca-Cola red against the Adidas black and white, that loose handwritten Coca-Cola stripped, next to the precision of the Adidas logo, right? They did really great different Samba shoes where it has Coca-Cola script on it. Very cool retro track suits. And so footwear that feels archival, right? And still very current. So we're kind of like bridging that nostalgia with trending shoes that are viral left and right, right? Sambas are just so popular in the sneakerhead industry or market space, right? And so the entire collection, whether it be the shoes or the track suits or the graphic tees, they are sitting somewhere between stadium culture, vintage advertising, with a mix of streetwear, right? And the wardrobe of the person who absolutely owns at least one track jacket, they will refuse to throw away, right? And I understand like you can look at that person and understand them deeply, right? The visual language lands quickly because these brands are already connected to our memory, right? Adidas, however you want to pronounce it, they are connected to the World Cup. Coca-Cola is like the Stadium Cup, right? Like it's the old
Yeah.
commercial. And so you just get that sense of like there's a match playing, there's family gathering, and you just like recognize what people grew up like wearing and watching in this nostalgic way. And I think that that is the power of alignment between these two brands because they're not asking the consumer to learn a new emotional language. They're remixing one that the consumer already speaks. So I think that they did that very, very well. Recognition gets me to look 100%. And Adidas being so heavily tied to the World Cup as it is, and just finding that nostalgic brand to collaborate with, that is what I'm going to remember 6 months from now, right? It's not something that happened very quick just to support the World Cup. It's something I bought into because I recognized what the two brands were telling me and what emotion they were trying to create. And it's not just that, oh, this is Adidas and Coca-Cola. It's like, wait, that detail on that jacket is really good. I need that because it's creating some form of emotion. So that progression really matters. I love the collab that happened here. But as we look at monetizing familiarity, right? What does that product do to give people a reason to walk through it? Right. And so that is where they expanded beyond that emotion and created something new, but that still felt familiar.
So good. I can't get over these because to me, simply put, it wasn't just two logos smashed together. It was there's a big time design and purposeful, it's intentional, it's loud in the right ways and soft in the right ways, if you know what I mean. Like it really does hook me. And it's not just like vintage nostalgia, it's like, I guess the word I keep coming back to is almost like heritage. It's like earned. It's like an earned feeling that you remember, not just like, oh, that's cute, I remember that when I was 12. It's like, oh my gosh, that brings all the feels, you know, like it just connects. There's just a connection for me. So I love it. I was so happy to see that it was so well thought out, and it's inspiring. At least it is for me.
Hats off to the creators here. I think that they landed a win on every product created. They thought outside of the box with incorporating denim into the track jackets and using that nostalgic Coca-Cola script right across the back. I think that they absolutely owned that, and it turned out so great.
Yeah. And you wouldn't normally think of Adidas having a denim jacket, but it completely works. And it goes more into that streetwear culture and just the whole vibe. And I love how you said these two remixed together like so perfectly, because you feel something when you look at this. And then it feels like nostalgic, like you're owning a piece of the history of this event and you're going to keep it. And then you'll remember all these cool moments when that comes back out. It's like,
I think too, the learning moment here is that yes, these are two famous logos, but they don't automatically just equal a great collaboration because they're side by side. It's how they sat together and evaluated what's going to make sense to the consumer we're targeting with this, right? And so they just pulled all of it in to reach every consumer they possibly could. Phenomenal.
I don't want to get too granular, too into the weeds, but it's one of my favorite things that I don't think we do enough of in the apparel, decoration, promo, and print worlds. Is that if you notice that sorry for those of you who are listening, hopefully you can watch this at some point, but we have two graphics up. We have one that's a jersey style on the left and one that's just the classic graphic tee, black t-shirt. But look at the Adidas logo that's been turned into a caricature, wearing shoes and drinking a Coke with sunglasses on. Super cute, super cool, and it becomes a new icon And it's joined the two together. And if you look closely on the left on the jersey, you can see that there's a patch of the same character, that little, whether you want to call it a new mascot or a new character, I'm not sure what the right language would be, but it's something that can help build the fusion of the two brands. And it's a new emotional connector. So to me, I was just like, oh, I was like, I'm nerding out on this, but I love it so much.
Yes, the matchup that they did and the way they meshed these and created something entirely new is incredibly clever and creative, and it makes you want to pay attention because you're like, whoa, they've created this whole new world.
Yeah.
And there's so many lessons. The lessons are like repeating the anniversary. Don't forget that. You can be corporate and sporty. You can be culturally connected and fun. And yet these are multi-billion-dollar brands that understand how to treat the moment. Like Jenna said, it's that moment, that emotional connector. So, so good.
So
All
good.
right. What else? Anything else there? Oh, I wanted to ask you because I think that when you said lessons learned, and it triggered something for me, which was like helping to apply this more to our worlds. A lot of times I was teasing Lauren about this, was like, yeah, imagine having these conversations with your favorite oil and gas executive or your favorite insurance or bank. But
Sure.
you know what? I think there are still some lessons to learn there. And so whether it's a conservative, CMO, or whether it's a small business, there's ways to bring back some of this identity, this access, and these emotions. And so that's really my question, is how do we help convince the people we serve? Because I know we have listeners like, yeah, that's cute, that's cool, but that's never going to work in my world, Jenna. So like, how do we help build this bridge to help a buyer who might always have their little Bible of brand do's and don'ts, here's what you get. How do you help them see the relevance of these types of moments? Not necessarily for World Cup, but you know what I mean? To grow a little, to expand a little, to evolve out a little.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's definitely how we should be viewing this, through that lens. And yes, these are great examples, but we're not all working at the same level of Adidas and Coca-Cola. And how can this actually translate to the customers and marketplaces that I am serving, whether that is my custom apparel shop or my promotional products business, right? And so I love that you called out CMO. I think that's a great example because they're not necessarily thinking about creative. They just want to protect brand equity, right?
Yes.
And so we could easily approach this by talking about the latest trend color or a cool new retro font. But what we really want to do is not replace their current identity with a new trend, right? We need to have this conversation of, let's say it's an old logo that they used to use, but they no longer use, right? They have like decades of this visual history sitting in an archive. Let us identify one of those moments where bringing that history forward creates emotional value for a specific audience, right? And so there's a lot of different avenues that you can look at it depending on your customer type, and the audience really matters. It can be, a collection moment for employees. It could be alumni release. It could be product tied to an original facility. There's a lot of ways to pull emotion in different business types if you really know your audience, right? And so it obviously has to have context, it has to have reason, but it definitely needs guardrails. So bar none, we definitely want to protect brand equity, but we want to see like where else it can live. Right. And so what does the product what product does that logo belong on? We shouldn't just slap things on a hoodie and a t-shirt and call it a day. Right. We want to make sure that whoever receives it is feeling like they have this sense of belonging to the item that we are producing. At the end of it, there is always a story that needs to be told. That's what gets people to stick around, right? That's what pulls in that emotion. but it's not creativity without control, right? So
Good
we can sit
point.
and
Yeah.
have these conversations with a CMO, but as long as we are having the right conversation and we're not just shooting them a bunch of crazy like Pinterest board inspiration and saying, hey, I can recreate this with your logo. We want to have that controlled use of heritage and brand equity whenever we're talking with our clients. And then we can start breaking out into more of the emotion, like, all right, if you're going to do like employee gifting or something of that nature, maybe somebody hit their 10 years and they want to give that employee a gift, pull on that heritage moment. If they've been around for 10 years, they have helped build the company in some way, right? So lean into that and connect an emotion that way.
Brilliant. I love
So
the
many
word
good
heritage.
nuggets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
Where do we
Yeah.
start? We're gonna go. This is gonna be like 2 hours because we're just like unpacking all these layers. It's too good. You used one
There's
of my
so many
favorite words.
layers to
I know. I
it.
There
know.
are.
Heritage. Before you take it over, Lauren, heritage is something that we just have to unpack a second. I read
Mhm.
something recently that was talking about this from the design standpoint, and it made the point. I wrote it down. Heritage is stored emotion, and when you use it well, it doesn't feel dated. And I was like, oh, I love that sentence so much.
Amazing.
I
That's
wish I,
so true.
and
Companies,
so it's not old. It's just not something that's old. It's like an
mhm.
emotional, you
Hmm.
get to unbox it again. And it's like, oh my God, it's like watching home movies. It's not just the fact that it's something you did in the 70s or the 80s, or in Jenna's case, the 90s. It's something about, I don't know, it's just more than that. It's more emotional to me. So anyway,
Yeah, it's like it's ownable. It's not something that's old, it's ownable. It is
love that.
part of your business, your company. It is telling its own story. Use it. People will love that.
Yes. I think the heritage is what gives those companies that competitive advantage. And when they use it in the right application, it turns into a powerful message, just proving and it's building trust. Like they have deep roots and a story to share. So rely on that. Like they've already established the market authority and the trust with the consumer. So there's like a whole psychological context to feeling part of that history and part of that legacy. So I think more and more companies can rely on that and use it in really unique ways. But even if you don't have like a ginormous history, like, excuse me, Coca-Cola or Adidas,
Hmm.
you can still rely on other things because you can. I think the underlying factor is that they have such a special story. So us as brand strategists or promotional marketing consultants, we need to be that person that helps our clients dig into those values, dig into their story and what sets them apart and the ways that's going to be our resource for how we represent them and how we translate that into tangible products that we're providing them. So
Yeah.
taking that and using that to curate something special, like you're saying, Jenna, not just, oh, here's a Pinterest idea board that looks really cool. Why don't we slap your logo on this? It's actually like what makes sense for them. So it could be an archival logo, or maybe it's something else, but maybe it's their values or it's just something unique to them, but drawing on that story.
Yeah, and I think that that is so limited in this industry that your customer is going to be like, "Whoa, I feel like you know me. I feel
Yes.
like you're in my brain. You know what I want." And they are
Mm-hmm.
missing that. It's something they're experiencing like Nike and or Coca-Cola and Adidas, they are serving the same consumer we are. So if that consumer is getting this experience at a retail level, why should they not look to us and experience that same thing? Why does the bar have to drop just because it's in the custom apparel industry? It shouldn't, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if they
Mm.
feel
So
seen
smart.
by these retailers that aren't even speaking directly to them, but they don't feel seen by their promotional products distributor or their custom apparel decorator, who's actually on the phone and talking to them, why should they like buy into more? Like, so if you're approaching them the same way that you just said, that's going to be trendy every time. And that's going to matter to them. They're going to feel seen and heard by somebody approaching them that way.
So smart. You guys how do you know all this? Oh my God, it's so good. I think I got stuck on an issue, and maybe I don't want to go too deep onto this, but it comes up all the time, especially when you're talking to screen printers or embroiderers or custom apparel decorators, promo folks too. But they seem to get hypersensitive about the logo itself, the size or the color. How do we identify that, recognize that, but at the same time, maybe shift a little, maybe bend a little, maybe create some new space? Is there anything we could do to have the conversation that we understand what you're supposed to do, but here's this new opportunity that we shouldn't miss either? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
ask both of you because Lauren, you're in this and you face this every day. This is like your world, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe Lauren, you first, then Jenna, you second. Let's do it that way. I gotta
Yeah,
know.
no.
I gotta know.
I love that you asked this because we're not asking them to shift away from their brand standards or what, we still have to protect that brand integrity, but it's on us to show them all the possibilities of what can be done and still representing them and still in alignment with all of those brand standards. So, it doesn't always have to be the left chest embroidery. There's a time and place for that for sure, but they can still paint outside the imprint area guidelines, if you will,
Yeah.
and go beyond. And I think that's part of our job to like research and do the deep dive with them as their strategy partner and an extension of their team is like, okay, we've got your brand guidebook. Um, let's bring in production specialists and people on the creative end and really figure out what we could do with all of this. There's so many unique ways to translate it into product and still protect their brand assets.
Yeah, it's like you just said, like you become the bridge to what's possible, where you can say, here's where you are, but here's where you could be. And you're using real evidence, real fashion, real cultural, real music, real examples to say, I'm not just making this up. I'm trying to help you see what's possible that others have done
Mhm.
successfully. That,
Exactly. And they don't always know what the possibilities are.
there you
And
go.
Right.
there's constantly new things coming out. And so our industry, that's why we're having these conversations, right? Because we need to think more like retail and think further ahead and like bring in experts like Jenna to tell us like what we need to know about what's going on.
Jenna,
No,
what's your take?
go ahead, Jay.
No, what's your take on it? That's always just like,
Yeah, I'm kind of echoing Lauren here because I think that they live together. Like they are side by side. They go hand in hand. Authenticity creates belief, but compliance creates recognition, right? Or protects recognition. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
we always want to make sure that anytime we're working with our customer, we're making sure that logo is correct, that color is correct, because that's a huge one. And it has correct placement, right? Like, let's say they absolutely need that left chest logo. There's so much more real estate that can happen on that polo. So, all right, we'll give you that left chest logo. Congratulations. We have successfully avoided any brand guideline violation.
Mhm.
But it is on us to empower them to notice what's outside of that box that they're kind of like so tunnel vision on that one left chest logo. So
Yeah.
I think the question is like, are we creating something that the recipient wants? We
Mm,
don't want to take you outside of your brand compliance at all. We want to follow that. But is the product feeling like the company? Did it feel like the work? Did it feel like the person wearing it? Like that's where the authenticity comes in. So if it is a left chest logo, let's maybe talk a little bit about like a collar print that we can accompany with that. Something that is unique in finish and not just a standard like embroidered logo or a direct to film logo? Like, what else can we be implementing there so that we're starting to build around, something creative, but still precise that works alongside the brand? I have a great example of this. One of the major brands that I work alongside, we have to follow those brand guidelines. Like, bar none, there is no question about it. They didn't know that there was like a rainbow reflective finish that they could get that like totally wouldn't take away from their brand guidelines. But the only thing that changed is if somebody takes a photo in it, it reflects like this cool rainbow graphic. Right. And so I'm on site with these guys and I show them the first time ever using it, and it just looks like a black design to them. And then I'm like, pull your phone out, take a picture of it, and see what happens. And they all just went, oh, like something so simple, but they're going to remember that. And now they're going to have that conversation with the consumer, and the consumer is going to go through that same example of that wow moment that is making something stand out way more than just your standard brand guideline.
Love it. Great
I
example.
love it. Yeah,
That's so
that's
good.
such a cool example. I want to see that in action.
It is great. I'll have to send you some examples of it. I think you would love it.
Oh, thank you. I love that.
I know we would. That's a cool way to segue into our next amazing example that Jenna, you kind of highlighted and you wanted to talk about, which is Nike. And Nike's doing something different than Adidas and Coke, but yet they are involved. They're a mega brand. They recognize the culture. They recognize World Cup and the moment and all of the fun it brings, all of the emotions. So what should we know about this, Lauren? I'm going to flash this up on the screen and hand it back over to you two for a second.
Yeah, I am really excited about this one in particular because so much of what we're seeing crossover from retail. There's so many wonderful retail examples of them inviting the consumer into an experience and come create your own special, unique piece with us and be a part of the community and make your own identity, be that co-creator in your style and your fashion. And that's coming into our industry finally, and it's so exciting. So what Nike has done here, I know Jenna can explain it way better than me, but like I'm so curious how we take this inspiration from how they melded in with the local communities, and their integration with the World Cup is bringing it into those local spaces and diving in because they know that each sports team and those fans that are there and those spaces, those locations are all so unique. And so diving into those individual areas has like blown up this huge world for them. And it was incredibly smart. It's a different world than the Adidas and Coca-Cola recognition that Nike's using participation. So Jenna, what did you gather from that? And like, I guess what would be our lessons as swag stylists or kind of these fashion editors that
swag stylists? I love that.
Right?
Has that been around?
That's her title. That's her title, Jenna.
Lauren, how did I not know that your title was that? That is crazy. What is it again? Swag stylist?
Swag stylist. I stole it from a client of mine who introduced me to someone and they called me that. And I'm like, why didn't I ever think of that? I'm stealing it. That's exactly what we are. And I know people knock on the word swag, but I've always told people, no, I think it's stuff with a goal. That's my acronym for swag. Yeah. That's what our customers call it. You know, they come to me, they're like, oh, we need new swag. So yeah. I mean, that's what our people are calling it. So that's what I'm going to call it because they recognize it. But it's fun. But I thank you for saying that. It's
no, that's great. Yeah. So to revisit, so we know Coca-Cola and Adidas, they built this world that already existed. People are already familiar with it, and they're like, come revisit it. And I love that, right? It plays on the heritage, the nostalgia, and it pulls on that emotion. Nike says, hey, come into this world with us and hang out with us and do something with us. And I think that is really incredible. And that shift from recognition to participation is what makes these comparisons so interesting. So Nike is great about collaborating in a variety of unique ways. And I call this like collaborating with local culture, right? They show up in a variety of communities with a strategy that is relevant to that culture within those communities, right? And so, I mean, picture walking into a Nike football environment during the World Cup. The room is dark, but the lighting is sharp and product is displayed like it matters, right? Football shoes just all along ceiling to floor, all along the wall. And no matter where you move in that space, there's screens showcasing athletes, there's games for you to play. People are making choices on like what custo they either want on a shirt or a jersey or a shoe, right? They're also offering customization on shoes in these moments. And so watching a match with a group of strangers, right, who's all there for one vibe and like one goal, and they're all feeling the same thing that a brand built, right? I think that is really important because the product is not the entire experience. The product is proof that you entered into it. And so Nike understands that. They do this very well. They understand their modern consumer, and they also understand that they want access to that culture, right? Everybody that is not necessarily all in on the World Cup, they still want access to the culture, right? I'm one of those people. I love what a lot of like designers built with some of these large brands utilizing the World Cup. And I want access to that because everybody's talking about it. People are styling it in a cool way. But what Nike did is that they invited their consumer in to be a part of a role inside of it. And that role doesn't have to be enormous. It just has to make somebody feel something, right? It has to make them feel like they are a part of this world that one of their favorite brands built for them. And maybe they choose a city-specific graphic because they're traveling for the World Cup. Like a lot of people were traveling into Dallas, so they got to have this Dallas-specific feel and vibe because that's where they were visiting for the World Cup. Maybe they're selecting a name or number. Maybe it's their own name on the back and they're pressing one of the World Cup jerseys. So now they're feeling like they're part of their favorite team. Nike is giving them that window of opportunity to become more a part of that team that they love, right? And so I see that these moments matter because now the consumer has moved from audience to participant. People value what they help complete, right? And we see this showing up more and more in retail doors outside of just the World Cup. I mean, you can go to Vegas and shop and you'll notice Custo being implemented into a lot of major retail doors. But I want to be very clear here. It's not the heat press or the embroidery machine that's creating that feeling. Those are just tools, right? The strategy is the choice, the meaning attached to the choice, the environment around it, the person guiding it, the reveal, the story this consumer can tell afterward, right? And so that is why I love what Nike is doing here because they're creating customization that can actually be cultural strategy, right? You're inviting somebody to the table with 12 random designs, and then everyone's literally waiting in line because they want to be a part of this. Yeah. And I think that is the difference in the experience.
That's so true, so true, so true. Jenna, you and I have actually had that experience together, lived it, walked it, breathed it, saw the line. It was true then. We had this exact conversation with Kylie about the Coachella experience, and she literally said the same thing. And I know you two work together on certain projects.
Kylie's fantastic. Love her.
She says hi, by the way. She's like, wait, you guys are doing with Jenna? Oh my God, I can't wait to listen.
I owe her a phone call.
Well, sorry, I didn't bring it up for that, but I love what you said about it gives gives, I guess I would say, the consumer, or gives the audience, attendee, whatever, the community member, it gives them a role. I love the way you
Mhm.
said that. It gives them, I've always phrased it as they become the co-collaborator of the outcome, the experience, the memory.
Mhm.
And it's a magnifier. So it's one thing to, you've seen it, I've seen it. Their eyes light up. They're like, wait, I get to choose? Like, just giving them choice blows their mind. And I just love that
100%.
emotion. I just can't get enough of it as the experiential side of how much glue there is and how much emotion that evokes and how much meaning that provides. It's like we're not going to ever have enough of it. I can just tell you that. It's
Mhm.
beyond a cool hat bar experience now. I mean, not
Mhm.
that there's anything wrong with hat bars. That's
Not
light
at
it up,
all.
right?
It's everything else built around it too.
Yeah, exactly
Mhm.
right. And I know that that you've experienced that. You've walked the walk with some of the activations, installations, live printing, print on demand. How many new phrases can we create for the experiential marketing?
Major
Uh,
moments.
Major moment. Yes, the
All of the
culture
above.
builders, access,
Yes.
the bridge building. Oh my God. So love it.
So we keep hearing the word activation too in our promotional marketing industry. And so with Collab Connection, this podcast, we're trying to make those connections into our industry. So how do we tie those dots from or make the connection of what Nike's doing with this huge experience to the experiences we want to generate for our clients? So there's more to it than just activation. Like you guys are saying, it's bigger than just a hat bar, it's the full package. So I'm curious from your standpoint, Jenna, too, like what are you seeing right now outside of our industry that we should be aware of and paying attention to? And like, what are we not doing in this industry that you're seeing through different channels?
Um, I mean, this is loaded, but I'll start with this because we talked a little bit about this earlier. Whenever we're talking about how we translate like what these brands are doing and how we can implement these. What I first want to point out is if you're trying to be Nike, that is the first trap, right? Like we don't have the marketing spend, not a lot of us have that level of marketing spend to bring that type of energy to a vast amount of local culture consumers, right?
Mhm.
So being able to bring that energy like down to earth, um, we can definitely try to like utilize black pipe and drape and purple LED lights. Like we see that happening a lot on the trade show floors or in ballrooms, but someone will call me up and be like, why does this still feel like a ballroom? And it's like, because it is like you're trying to take
Right, right.
little elements from what they did as opposed to understanding what the consumer you're trying to approach knows, right? And so we need to approach it as a this is what I can do. These are the choices. This is how I enter the experience, and this is what I leave with. You need to be able to define each of those things for it to make sense to your brand and the consumer or audience you want attached to this experience. Right. So for a corporate meeting, I would begin with the human objective. What should this person feel when they leave? Right. That's like the overarching question.
Mhm.
Should they feel recognized? Should they feel connected? Should they feel energized? Um, should they feel proud of their region? Like, are we trying to pull into local culture? And then are we clear about the company's direction to some of these answers? Right. Are you excited about like a launch? Right? That's going to help define how your approach is with the consumer, right? Let's say it's a national sales meeting. The easy answer is to order the same quarter zip. Jay, you and I have had this conversation so many times. It's so easy to order the same quarter zip for everyone and place it on their hotel room bed with a logo slapped on it. Like, and that's appropriate in a lot of ways, and that works in a lot of ways, but where is the participation participatory experience. It's missing. They've completely lost any like engagement to that product or what it is supposed to mean or how they're supposed to feel about it. The stronger version might be give attendees a curated base product and allow them to add one element tied to their region or their team or their sales milestone, some sort of strategic pillar that they're going to carry with them into the next year, right? Now that product reflects where they sit inside the story that you're trying to tell, right? We can see this pop up in a variety of different ways. It could be university orientation, a nonprofit event, for a trade show, right? We've approached trade shows in a unique way previously so that we can give the attendees a role in the experience of our new 360 IQ press, right? When we launched that at STAHLS, we wanted people to experience in a unique way. We wanted them to get hands-on with it. So we're like, hat bar made sense for that point in time, right? But the goal was always adding personalization, not because it's cute, but because it is making the experience more relevant, right? And so there's an immense amount of ways that this can show up for a lot of us. But I think overarching, the goal is not to make a corporate event look like Nike. The goal is to make the attendee feel as considered as a Nike consumer. That's the bridge.
That is so spot on. I'm like, mic drop right now. That's the whole point of it, right? How do you want that person to feel? Like you were saying, recognize. I mean, it could even be a company that's having an event and they want all of their employees to have the same colored garment so that they're recognizable on the show floor. Well, one employee might not feel their best in a button down, and they should have access to something else where they feel proud to still represent the company. And so what we see a lot too, that like my clients are doing, is the pop-up stores. So just as an example, I'll throw out for anyone listening to one way to bring this to life in what we do in the promotional marketing world is like the pop-up shops. Like give the staff or the team a pop-up store with your approved garments in the corporate color so that everyone matches and is recognizable. But then they get that choice. They get to feel valued and like they had a say in choosing and feeling proud about what they're wearing. And the last thing you want.
That's a great way to do it as well. Like there's a lot of approaches. It doesn't always have to be live customization. It just has to be an invitation to let people participate in some way. If it's digital with a pop-up store, that is a fantastic way to do it. Yeah.
And I love the live experiences too. But you could even blend the two. So there's so many cool ways.
Create a hybrid. So cool. I flashed up on the screen, Jenna, one of the things that you had sent me previously about where people appear to be customizing either a jersey or customizing I wasn't sure what the actual product was to be, but you know, it changes everything. We've experienced it. All three of us have been there. If you're listening to this or watching this and you've never had this experience, let me translate this for you. First of all, I think it's incumbent upon you. It's really important that you go experience this yourself. So find a location that's doing something and then make mental notes of how you're feeling, the experience you're having. Why do you feel included? Why do you feel the access? Why do you feel the joy? Why do you feel the anticipation, right? All of those things, mark that down and go, okay, I'm no longer being gifted a piece I may or may not really like. I now get to make something that's mine. And it's a giant shift. And so that's why I was excited to share that. I don't know if you've got anything to add to this graphic, if you can explain it or give us anything more, because you've said everything so well. And I was listening so much, I forgot to flash this up earlier. So that's on me. I'll own that.
No worries.
What are some takeaways from this slide? I know our listeners can't see it, but maybe you could describe it.
Yeah. And so what I believe Nike is creating in these images is this immersive, almost like design forward. I don't want to say it's a class because I don't know that it's a class, but it's definitely inviting consumers in to be part of creation around the World Cup, right? And so we see some jerseys displayed, some different transfer options laid out, whether that's names and numbers. People are picking different jerseys that they may want to personalize. There's some equipment hanging around to help apply some of this personalization and custo onto these jerseys. And so what this is creating is an immersive like customization. I don't even know the best way to describe it, but it's definitely heavy in custo because they want the consumer's hands to be on and feeling and touching and placing and becoming part of that creative process. Now, while there's so many different like graphics and options, you'll notice that things are controlled in the image. There are certain areas that are set up for selecting a garment, and then certain areas that are selected for finding a transfer or a design that they want. And then there's a separate area for applying this custo onto the jersey. So it's definitely creating an experience that people are entering into, but then they get to be a part of that creative process. And at our core, we are all creative beings, right? And so if you can lean into that as a brand and help people bring that creativeness out, people will just remember that because it directly ties to emotion. So I think that's what Nike did really well there. They weren't just creating this space to come and chaotically like design some stuff. It was controlled, but it was controlled live customization for sure.
It wasn't just a crafty class. It was a no. You could see that for those of you that are listening, you could see the stations, you could see the intentionality, you could see that it was a process, and I love that. We haven't even touched on this, but the truth for me too is the longevity of the keepsake nature. When you make something, you're not gonna give it away. You might hand it down to your family member or kid, but you're going to keep it. You made it. It's yours. It's a symbol of something where you were and who you were with at the time of life. And so there's a longevity in that piece. And so it really triggered for me when you said that Nike wants people to touch it, to be engaged in it, to hold it. And that's, to me, taking ownership of it. And so once that happens, it's a shift of, okay, now this is mine and I'm involved in this process. And there's a word that's called haptic, HAPT, haptic. It's like touch, it's tactile. And so a lot of Europeans say haptic advertising. I don't know why, but I'm going to steal it because it sounds smart. And so in this case, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that, that decoration model that's so, how do I put this? It's not just automatically going to be great if you say we can do this customization. It's not an immediate win. There has to be kind of that plan. I think that's what you were so well laying out. And that's what I got from those photos, is that connection has to feel like they actually had a role in creating this piece, and it's very meaningful and specific to them.
Yeah, it's like a sense of authorship without being like a public stress test for everybody involved.
So
and
true.
the brands are still controlling that environment and still maintaining their brand standards and all the things. And that's part of it, is curating those designs so it's not too much overwhelming choice for the participant, but they still feel that sense of authorship and creative direction that they designed it and they made that. And
and I can't help it. My brain goes here almost every time we have this discussion, but I have to give you the massive credit. I know you had a team and I know you had others helping you, but when I saw what you did at the Printing United show in Atlanta, and I saw the record store, that capsule, that vibe, the whole feel, the couches, the vinyl, the bins, the records. Jenna, you crushed it. It was so good.
Thank you.
And
that was my favorite one to date.
Yeah. And I mean, they had this giant neon sign that said record shop, and it was like, the music was up. You had the partners involved. You made something that was really complex look super simple. It was obvious what you were supposed to do. Like I tried to put myself in just like okay, what do I do? Like I'm new, it's new again for me. And it was just a perfect balance between something that was premium and high end and an event. Like in a trade show hall, you did it. You were able to take me away from the trade show and put me into a record shop. And it was so fun.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to challenge you though on it. If there's
Okay.
one thing you think could have been better about it, what do you think it could have been? And I want this to be called out because I want this to be a lesson moment for listeners and people watching.
So for me, I'm a design snob. And as much as I loved the fact that there was a really cool vintage hoodie, I think it was from Lane 7, so I got to give credit where credit is due. It was awesome. The graphic itself was cool, the way it was built. But however, I don't really want to be a walking billboard for STAHLS and for Lane 7. And so I was like, I had that moment of hesitation where I was like, oh, mini letdown for me. Not necessarily was it a fail for everyone else, but just for me, I had that little moment of, do I really want to walk around wearing this really cool graphic, but it's all about Lane 7 and about Culture Studio and about STAHLS?
Now,
Maybe
what if, oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish your thought.
No, you build on it. What
if the vinyl records that were displayed on the wall to really get you immersed in that record vibe, like that record shop vibe, what if those those images or that imagery was utilized in the graphic and maybe some subtle branding on who the collab?
Yes, home run for sure. I'm not opposed to wearing a Lane 7 or a STAHLS or a Culture Studio logo. In fact, it's cool because it was me at that event and it's a memory marker. It was too forward. It was I wanted it to be more subtle and somehow connect me to Atlanta or connect me to a record shop or connect me to the 80s or 90s, something that was less commercial and more about the meaningful moment. That's all. And I'm
with you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then I didn't want to offend you. I didn't want to upset you.
No. No offense taken at all. That was a major learning moment for me. It was like one of my very first activations. And I think the last detail was like, what are the designs going to be for these graphics? And so when we all like put our ideas into the pot and it got stirred around, that's what came out. But I think that was the one thing I would have done better had I had more time to really focus on the graphics 100%. So
you were in alignment on what you would change.
Yeah, that's funny. I didn't. So instead of an A+, you get an A-. That's
okay.
Is that
fair enough?
All right. It was so good in every other way. I hate even bringing up a negative because it was and by the way,
it's a learning moment. Like I'm the one that made you bring it up because I genuinely believe that makes or breaks the experience for the person meant to be in that participation mode. Right. Yeah. So it's kind of took out that participation. It was like, these are the graphics, whether you like them or not. So it removed a little bit of that. While people loved the experience and they liked being in the area because it was a fun, cool, relaxed vibe, totally broke them out of trade show mode. Like they could come there and hang out, have some cool conversation. It worked, but that participation moment of creating the hoodie or the t-shirt with the limited graphics we had, while it worked strategically because it didn't keep a heavy line built up, it was just missing a little bit more. How do I make this me?
Yeah, that's all right. We've learned, we've grown, we've moved on. Well, listen, Lauren, you need to help wrap us up or we're going to keep going.
I just was going to say that's like a really good lesson too. And it kind of goes back to some of the previous things we were talking about with, utilizing the local culture or the local designs. Maybe there's a local artist or an internal artist at a company that can help create that design. And then the brand can be secondary because the recipient and the person participating that you want to remember the event by will have a stronger psychological connection to the location and the event itself and all those feelings and sensory things that they were part of. And then the brand is still there. They still have that connection to the brand, but they'll wear something that has a cool design more frequently. So I love that. And it goes back, I think the big takeaway from this whole thing with Coca-Cola, Adidas, and Nike, I mean, not everyone has these multi-million-dollar budgets, but it all comes down to our clients and us helping us, either swag stylist, to remember how are you wanting your people to feel ultimately, and then curate from there. And that's how you make your brand someone's favorite and stand out in their closet and in their everyday life.
Well, there's so many great takeaways, and I want to give Jenna some time to close up and any last thoughts you had. But same, I've got all these same feelings. The goal is to be, it's not just about the World Cup. That's just how we're framing it today, but it's all of the things that we can take away from this. So be an observer, be a student of the game, take notes, dig through Nike's Instagram, dig through Adidas Instagram, like get into the culture and see it. Even if you're not necessarily going to participate in that moment, you can still learn from it. You can still take that away and say, I see what they're doing. I see the feelings that they're trying to, let's document this. Let's write this down and then figure out a way to apply it to our world and be willing to take some risks, play the good, better, best.
The risk.
Take the risk and at least present it as an option. That way you feel connected to your job, but you still feel like, not every time is your buyer going to want to take the risk with you. But if you keep giving them reasons why it makes sense to stand out and be different by design, they will start to appreciate that you are thinking ahead, that you're not just transactional. You're more than just, taking an order. Nothing wrong with a great order with a great margin. I get it. But remember the moment, remember those feelings. And so, Jenna, it's been so awesome. I don't want to wrap up because I want to keep this conversation going. You bring such great light and energy.
Part two?
Part two?
Seriously.
Okay, let's do it. Let's bring you in. We'll bring it back, no worries, but let's give you some time too. What's on your mind or heart or the reason to carry this forward? Anything you want to share with us?
Yeah. I think that the examples that we saw today were great because we got to see brands design for different human response. But what I want the takeaway from today to be is that these ideas can translate into every part of our industry. Whether we want to be or not, we are an extension of the retail world and the fashion world. And as we think about translating all of these ideas and moments that we're seeing happen in real time, think about how it makes sense to your consumer or your client or the next order that you're going to take. A school can design around tradition and student identity. A sports program can design around achievement and role. A corporate program, it can design around recognition and employee relevance. The execution is what changes, right? Human motivation does not. That's where we need to begin, right? It's not what can we put a logo on, it's what should this person feel? What should they remember? What should they be able to express? And then curate backward, right? Product, decoration, choice, environment, how it's distributed, operationally, what's our measurement, right? That is how we start to bridge the gap. If we start answering all these questions and how we can evoke more emotion and more trust from our clients, then it's going to make we're not trying to make every client some retailer, right? We're just trying to bring retail's level of intentionality into the products and programs we already create.
Beautiful.
The crowd is cheering.
That was, you are so perfectly well spoken. Can you write a blog or
I have some
something?
good notes sitting next to me. So
Well,
just for clarity, all of this was definitely decided on what I was going to talk about. But I do genuinely feel like these are things that we need to be talking more about in the industry. It goes missed a little bit, but the more we can communicate this and all kind of come to the table around this conversation, I think the more we'll just propel ourselves forward, so that we're not competing with retail. We're just becoming an expected extension of it.
So great. So great. Jenna, thank you so much for your time. Lauren, for all of your prep and being here and walking the walk, because you've taken time away from your real business. I guess me as a facilitator or as a host or as a just whatever, I don't know what role I'm playing, but happy to be between the two of you. I don't know if I'm that way. Right now I'm surrounded by greatness. That's all I'm going to say. And so it's been just a really fun ride, and I want to make sure that we can, bring this back to reality. And I think we did that today. And I'm so happy that you both were here to be able to do that. Great collabs don't just kind of happen out of thin air, and they're not just borrowing random attention, right? It's very thought out. It's very purposeful. And I think, Jenna, you highlighted that so well. And your experience has been invaluable here. So thank you. And creating something that people actually want. It's really not as hard as we make it. It's like, oh, would you really? So it's the difference between I have to wear or I get to wear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we could just remember that, because a lot of money is wasted, a lot of time is wasted, a lot of energy is wasted on missing the mark. So let's not do that, Lauren. No more. Right? You're going to listen to Collab Connection and you're going to be super inspired. You're going to follow what Lauren said and follow what Jenna said, and life is good.
This was so fun. Thank you both. Thanks, Jay, for getting this going, and Jenna for being here, for taking the time. I love this conversation. I feel like these great collabs give your merch a story and a soul, and that's why we have to produce it well and be that extension for our customers. So I'll wrap us up and just thank you again. But thanks everyone too for tuning in and joining us here on Collab Connection. We are here to connect the dots on exactly why big brand collaborations work, why they exist, and what they can teach us about the future of promotional marketing and really continue to move our industry forward. So if this episode got you thinking and got your creative wheels turning, please do us a favor and share it with your friends, your colleagues, anyone that needs to hear it. And yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.